Take the Leap is the podcast where we get real about the roller coaster that is entrepreneurship and life. Sure, some folks make running a business look like a walk in the park, but let's be honest, it's more like a wild ride through a theme park with a lot of unexpected twists and turns.
Join us, your co-hosts, Ashlan
and Tory,
as we spill the beans on our own real-life experiences and shine a spotlight on some amazing guests. From the highs of success stories to the lows of epic failures. And hey, we'll even throw in some cringe-worthy, laugh-out-loud, embarrassing moments for good measure.
So buckle up and tune in every Tuesday and Thursday for a dose of raw, unfiltered truth about what it's really like to chase your dreams and build a business.
Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just dipping your toes into the startup world, we've got something for everyone. Even if it's just to make you think, wow, I'm glad I didn't do what they did.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Take the Leap podcast. We're really excited for our guest today, Danielle Dinkelman. Danielle is a national board certified health and wellness coach and the author of the book, If Diets Don't Work, What Does? She is the co-founder and CEO of Advanced Corporate Wellness, which provides health and wellness coaching as an employee benefit to high-strain, high-stress businesses and nonprofits. As a sought-after coach and speaker, Danielle is known for her philosophy of doable, enjoyable changes for long-lasting results. Danielle lives in Oregon City, Oregon, with her husband and 4 children. She's a trained classical musician who loves the outdoors and enjoys rock climbing at her local bouldering gym as often as she can. Thank you so much, Danielle, for being on with us today. And we are just going to dive right in.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah. We're going to dive right in with the first question we always ask our guest, which is, what is your Take the Leap story? How did you decide to become an entrepreneur?
Oh boy, I love that question. And thank you both so much for inviting me on. I love this whole project that you're both doing, and I adore both of you. So this just doesn't even feel like work to me. This just feels like fun. Gosh, my Take the Leap story for entrepreneurship. Well, I was actually raised by a business owner. My dad owned and operated his own carpet cleaning business my whole life. And I grew up saying, I will never own my own business. That just looks like the worst idea. Which, if you know me, which both of you do, especially you, Ashlan, we've been working together for a while now. And you know that that's funny because I could not be a business owner, right? Like, eventually it was probably inevitable because I'm just so stubborn and I like to do my own thing and I don't like people to tell me what to do. So why not do your own thing, right? So, yeah, I mean, I actually came into entrepreneurship through a different industry. I started out as an entrepreneur, actually as a musician, gigging, performing, and did a lot of teaching. I built my own studio up of young trombone students, and I was one of the main teachers in the area where I was living at the time, and I absolutely loved it. And that's when I really got my feet wet first with, like, how do I find paying customers and how do I, promote myself, and just all of those business questions we start asking. Kind of got to start with that. And that was kind of right out of the gate when I graduated from college back in 2009, 2010, kind of that neighborhood. But then, yeah, there's been kind of multiple leaps that I've taken. I got into health and wellness coaching in 2018. And I actually did both for a little while. And it was another leap for me to say, I can't keep doing both, the teaching and the gigging and this health coaching thing. So I did take a leap right around kind of in the middle of the pandemic. I said, it's time to just go full bore with the health coaching. All the while, Blaze, my husband, and I knew that we wanted to start a corporate wellness business, which is the business that you introduced in the bio. And that was born, we wrote the business plan in 2020. We then put it on the shelf because the world was on fire. And then we moved out of state. We moved from Utah here to Portland, Oregon. and dusted that off in the fall of 21. So we've been working with clients for 2 or 3 years now, and I'm so happy. Like it's a crazy, messy thing to be doing, but I really wouldn't have it any other way.
That's incredible.
What a cool story and journey. I think this is the first time I've heard you talk about the music side of things. I've known you through, the business side of things. So that's so cool to have kind of that experience. And I know that the feeling about being torn between which one, like you have to focus. We can't do all the things. So that must have been a hard choice. Yeah.
It was really hard. And, it's hard to be, I consider myself a multi-passionate person. It's really hard to have multiple things that you're passionate about, because ultimately you do have to choose. If you're going to do, at least for me, if I'm going to do one of them well, I want to be able to focus on it. But yeah, for me, it's like, I loved so much in my music business. It was really the teaching that I loved the most. And I loved taking a student that would come in and they just sounded like absolute garbage. And then like not even a year later, they have completely transformed the way that they can play their instrument. And not only that, like their confidence had grown, and I got to watch these kids grow up really, because they started working with me like maybe in 5th or 6th grade. And a lot of them stayed with me until they graduated from high school. I actually got a wedding announcement from one of my students, and it was just so cool. So really, really rewarding work to be doing. And yet, as I got into health coaching, I found I was experiencing the same type of like facilitating a transformation really from the inside out with my clients, really working on a lot of mindset stuff, helping them see themselves differently and think of themselves differently so that they could move forward again with more confidence. So I actually saw a lot of parallels between the two things. And I ultimately decided like I can make a bigger impact in people's lives with this health and wellness coaching thing than I can in music. Because even though I think music is a fantastic analogy and a fantastic container to practice a lot of life skills and mindset practices, the wellness piece just makes such a bigger impact. And that's kind of what I'm addicted to, is just what kind of ripple effects can I help people create for just goodness in their lives and the lives of their families?
I love that. That's so powerful. And I love that you went that path to like after COVID too, because I just feel like the awareness on that topic is there now, and people are realizing that they want to live their lives differently. And so I think you're right. I really think you can make a huge impact with your clients, and I feel like you're in the right time too for this right now as well.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree.
Well, what's something, now that you've been kind of at it for a little bit, knowing what you know now, what piece of advice would you give to yourself a few years ago, or even when you were just kind of starting out? What would you tell the younger version?
I was actually looking back at some materials you had sent me to kind of prepare for this call, and I saw that question on the list, and that's such a fun one because I feel like I'm constantly reinventing myself. I learn a lot really fast. So there's a lot has happened since then, right? So the advice I would give myself is just keep learning about yourself, of what makes you tick, how you work best, and get to a place where you can really understand yourself and accept how you work best, and then just work with that and be patient with yourself. That would be the advice I would give. To add more color to that, I was recently diagnosed with ADHD, and that has just been like so revelatory. So there's a part of me that kind of wants to go back and like kind of tap younger version on the shoulder and be like, so there might be some other things going on over here that might help you understand yourself. But But other things that I've come across over the years have been things like human design, if you're familiar. Ashlan, I know you're familiar with that. It's a really powerful kind of personality and energy profiling system that's just so helpful to like understand how you work best. And other things like Clifton Strengths Finder. I got to go through that process in my MBA program recently, and that was really revelatory. Like anything that helps us understand ourselves better can help us be more successful as entrepreneurs, especially if you're diving in and kind of doing a solopreneur thing, which is how I started. It can be really lonely. It can be really frustrating. We can get really impatient. And the more that you can accept the process and your process, I think the better off we can be. I've told so many people, like, if you want the ultimate personal development journey, go start a business, because it will be so revealing of what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are and what your blind spots are.
Absolutely. I love that you brought that up, because it's so true, especially if you're a solopreneur.
Yes.
And you're working by yourself. Like, you're not only, it's like when everyone had to work from home for a while, right? Like, you're not only learning about yourself and your habits and the things that keep you focused and distracted and stuff like that, but then you're also learning how to respond to situations, like things that in the past maybe your boss would have taken care of. And so you're like learning new skill sets constantly. You're interacting with clients, you're reframing what it is that you offer based on things that you learn along the way.
Yeah.
And it's just, I'm glad you brought that up, because it's so true.
It's huge. And so for folks that listen to podcasts like this that are thinking about or are in the middle of their entrepreneurial journey, like, if you haven't already figured that out, like, we're just helping you out right now, because that is, I don't think you can be an entrepreneur and ignore that, at least not these days. And if you do, like, good luck to you, because you need that self-awareness. And then Ashlan, I know you've been building a team. I've been building a team. Like, when you start to build a business that is bigger than just you, even more so, you need to be self-aware, because now other people are involved, and your communication style, how you are in relationship with those team members, you're establishing the culture of your business and your company. I mean, it really, really matters, and we have to take ownership of it. I actually just was meeting with someone earlier today that was kind of telling me some horror stories about different workplaces that they had worked in and bosses that had just been bullies, really. And it's just shocking to me now, but they do exist. There's people that start businesses all the time that are not self-aware enough or mature enough to take responsibility for those actions. And so the more that we can do that, I think the better we can make some changes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that you bring up that self-awareness, because knowing that all that about yourself too helps you know who you need to hire, who you need to surround yourself with when you understand your strengths. And it's not necessarily like weaknesses, right? But it's like, where do you need to fill gaps? Who do you need on your bench to help you out with it? And recognize that it's really hard to do it all by yourself. That like you know, I know that there are a lot of solopreneurs out there, but like, you know, I was asked recently, like, what is your plan? How big do you want to build your company? And I was like, I don't know yet. You know, we're right to fit for where we are right now. And I keep kind of evaluating what will be next. But, you know, ultimately, I think my goal is to help as many folks as possible. And if that does mean adding more bits and pieces, it's going to mean doing that, you know, as time goes on as well. So
yeah. And honestly, Ashlan, that says a lot about how you do business, which is, it's not about you growing bigger for the sake of getting bigger, right? It's your business serving other people's businesses, which is what it should be about. Helping as many people as possible, and then we'll figure the rest out, right?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we have one more question before we jump into the hot seat questions. So this is my favorite one to ask to people is, what is your why? Why are you in business for yourself, and what drives and motivates you to continue to do the work?
Yeah. I believe you can have multiple whys, and I definitely have multiple whys. It kind of goes back to just, again, the self-awareness piece. I know that I would be a really crappy employee. I'm too creative and innovative and stubborn. I really like creating and doing my own thing. And I really like helping the people that I feel called and drawn to help. So in our company, we get to support those that are in the professional services, kind of in B2B services, like accountants and marketing specialists and PR firms, things like that. And then we also work with nonprofits in the social services space. And both of those spaces are such rewarding places to be working in. So I love getting to choose who we serve. So I'm a control freak. That's really one of my whys. I like being in control. But yeah, I think my big why comes back to that transformation piece. I love seeing people and businesses reach their full potential of like what they want to create in their lives and in their workspaces as teams. There's so much that humans are capable of when we have the help and the guidance and the support and the health and the well-being that we need to be able to function at our best. We are capable of amazing things. And the inverse is also true, right? When we don't have what we need, oh, it gets so toxic and it gets so ugly and unjust, and it's not good. So I like being the solution in my little corner of the world, being one of the solutions to some of those problems that I see.
Love that. I love
that answer. That's so great.
Thank you.
All right. So are we ready for the hot seat questions?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. So the first question I have for you is, what is the best and or worst advice you've ever received in your career?
I love that question. Okay, best advice I ever got was the first business coach I hired. She helped me create my business plan when I launched my private practice as a health and wellness coach. And she saw me so clearly, like so much clearer than I could see myself back then. And I was just super type A, super ambitious. And she said, Danielle, what if, great coaching skill right there, what if you could be content in your progress? And I just literally just laughed out loud at her. But it really was the best advice. I wrote it in big, beautiful letters and put it on my wall. And I'm still working, still working on being content in my progress. But that's definitely the best advice. It has been timeless advice.
I love that. I'm going to write that down, because I do think a lot of times I think it is part of the nature of our society to like want more and get more and expand and grow and this kind of growth at all costs mentality just is not, it's not sustainable, and it's not necessarily what everybody wants. I do think that is something that I've noticed. Like, I had conversations with somebody in a networking group, and we had this long conversation about the type of clients I like to work with, early stage entrepreneurs. And he's like, well, you could go after bigger companies who will pay you more and you get to grow and all of this. And I was like, yeah, but I wouldn't be like you said, you're in that part of the transformation. We wouldn't be in that part of that really cool growth, trajectory. That's super fun to be able to, break things down and work with people who are building businesses the way they want to, not the way that corporate America says you need to go get your stock on the exchange or whatever. And, small business is the heart and soul of the country, but it's not the business that people talk about. It is not, the folks that people recognize. And it's kind of similar to like the kind of, folks who look up really to like celebrities and stuff like that. It's we're all human, but we're different. Like, that doesn't necessarily need to be what everybody wants and needs to be famous,
Totally, Ashlan. Totally. We could take a whole tangent on this. I think we need to be careful of what our measure of success and progress is. right? Sometimes progress is learning something new, not necessarily making more money or having more clients, but maybe getting some clarity. Sometimes progress is losing a client because you realize, oh, now I can see now in hindsight why that person or that company was not a good fit for my business. Now I know, okay, I just made progress. I just put another piece of the puzzle together. Yeah, progress and growth for growth's sake and growth at all costs, like you said. Oh, that's the ugliest part of capitalism. That's the ugliest part of it all, and that's not what we want to. That's not what we want to promote. And linear, the myth that we are supposed to grow at a linear pace, that it's supposed to be the same rate year after year, is such a joke, right? And like the more we can normalize the fact that it is a roller coaster, it is not a straight line. Um, I think the better off we can be, because I think as especially as women-owned businesses, it can be so easy. I don't know what it is about us that maybe we're just more socially oriented than men. I don't know. I'm going to make some broad strokes there, but we compare a lot, and we let those comparisons eat away at our confidence unnecessarily so. Because if people really shared their actual journey, then we would all be like, oh, we're all in the same boat. Like if we were real about it, which would be nice, which is why I love podcasts like this. It's like, let's get real about what does it take to build a business, and what's hard about it, what's fun about it, what's not fun about it. It's important to be real about it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
For riffing on that with me. Well, we have a different pivot on for the hot seat questions. So I know that one of the things that you speak about, since we do work together, is the different types of self-care. So resting, nourishing, moving, playing, and connecting. And I want to know from you, which of these do you feel like most people are not spending enough time in? And what would your recommendation be in kind of creating balance in all the little self-care categories?
Oh my gosh, this is like how long do you want to be here? Yes, yeah. Everyone has the advantage of knowing what my soapboxes are. The ones, honestly, most people suck at all of them. Some people have one or two of them figured out, but then even those, I think, can sometimes turn into unhealthy coping mechanisms. Like I've been a runner at one point, and it's so interesting to get to know folks that run for mental health reasons. And sometimes you talk to folks and you're like, oh, honey, running is great, but you might also need a therapist. Like there's more to this. Like we can't put all of our eggs in one basket. So I do think it's really important to diversify our recuperation strategies, our self-care strategies. Sometimes the most restful thing I can do is to go out to lunch with a girlfriend, or to take a nap, or to lay on the floor and stare at the ceiling and really tell myself I just get to be a bump on a log for a minute. Sometimes going out and playing is really restful and really recharging. Yeah, I think, whichever one you don't resonate with, that's probably the one you need to work on, because I think all of us need all of them. And the reason I share that is from personal experience. I've always been the type of person that, I will say I used to be the person that took myself way too seriously and had way, way too much to prove. We won't get into the psychoanalysis of why that is, but I think I've come a long way on that, of like learning to laugh at myself, learning to just be a little more lighthearted, and valuing play, valuing laughter and silliness, being willing to embarrass yourself. These things, like, they are not a weakness. They are a strength to like be self-assured and self-secure enough to put yourself in that situation. So for me, as you mentioned in my bio, I'm crazy about rock climbing right now. It is the way that I play. It's also the way that I connect. There's a whole social community in the climbing world that I'm really enjoying. It's also my exercise and my movement. So I love finding things that are rejuvenating to me that check multiple boxes, because I like being really efficient with my time. So when you're climbing, you have to be willing to embarrass yourself. You are going to hop on a route that you're not going to be able to finish. And you're probably going to look like a really weak idiot at some point, at multiple points. And getting comfortable with that has been such a great exercise for me. And it's just given me a place to practice some of the mindsets that I turn around and I use in my business every day, of being patient and content in our progress, and that we don't always have to have that linear growth. It's so valuable. So yeah, check all the boxes with all the things.
I love that. That's such a great response. And I kind of want to expand on that slightly with this question. So coming from somebody who never prioritizes self-care, never has, like never was really taught that growing up, and just kind of have not been living in a society that prioritizes that. So how does one, if, like I know, like everyone's like, you should really enjoy self-care, you should really do that, especially after you become a mom for some reason. Everyone's like, make sure to prioritize your self-care. I'm like, cool, great. How do I do that? Yeah. So I guess my question for you is like, how would you recommend people who are not in that headspace at all get started on like prioritizing that in their life? Like, what steps would you tell them to take?
I love that question, Tori. Thank you. I think a really great place to start is listening to that little voice in your head that you never let yourself listen to, which is, oh gosh, wouldn't it be so great to like just go to coffee with my friend? Oh, wouldn't it be so great if I could just, if someone else would put the kids to bed and if I could just go take a bubble bath? Oh, wouldn't it be so great if I could go on a weekend cruise with my girlfriends? Like whatever that wildest dream is, even if you know that it's unrealistic to act on it, speak it, write it down, share it with your partner, your spouse, your friend, your business partner, like give it voice. And I would just start listening to that a little more, and then finding little ways that you can say yes to, wait a minute, I could totally go to coffee with that person. Like, let me plan that out. Let me see who can watch the kiddos so that I can go do that. The people that care about us the most, the people that we work closely with, that we live with, they want us to take care of ourselves. And I think I say this about 1 million times in my book. So if you are one of those people that this is hard, go grab a copy, because it's kind of like having me in your ear for however long it would take you to read that book. But the moral of the story is that the people around you really want you to take care of yourself. They want you to be at your best. They want you to feel good and energetic and excited about raising your family and building your business. And the more that we can like believe that, that's the mindset shift that has to happen, is that we're not taking anything away from anyone by saying, I'm going to take an hour and I'm going to go do this thing that is just for the sake of doing that thing. It does not have to be productive, right? There's so much wrapped up in this. Lots of mindsets and stuff. But yeah, I think a starting point could be just to even recognize when there's that little voice, those little ideas of like, ooh, wouldn't it be nice if, or, oh, if I had a magic wand and could just wave this and do whatever sounded good and delicious to me, start paying attention to that.
I love that. Thank you for that. That's actually that's an amazing idea, to just start listening to yourself.
It's huge.
I'm going to give it a shot.
Do it. Let me know how it goes.
I will for sure.
When I think what's so important about that choice or that point too is that like self-care can mean different things for different people. Like, you have talk about rock climbing and it checks a lot of these different boxes. Like, I do think we as women are taught that like self-care is supposed to be like doing your hair and nails and getting a pedicure or something like that. But it doesn't need to be that. It can be something different. Like it could be diving into like a smutty romance novel, or like, I don't know if you either have experienced this. LinkedIn has games on it now. And like
What?
that is my morning like coffee enjoyment thing. Yeah, there's like a word game. There's like this one. It's basically similar to Sudoku. You have to put like a crown in every colored space, and there can only be one per line. And one like it. And I ever since I have started doing it in the morning, I feel like my days are more productive because my brain has done like a fun and playful thing, but it also like woke it up.
Yes.
Like, oh, I had to do a word game and like all of that
Yes.
different stuff. I feel like the same way when I did Wordle too. Like, it's
Yeah.
getting your synapses firing and it's fun and it's not serious at all. Cause like occasionally I'm like, oh, I failed at that, but it's fine. It's totally okay.
It's
Low
so
stakes.
important. It's so important to give ourselves permission to play, and the definition of play and the definition of fun is that it is a thing for its own sake, right? It's an activity that you get nothing out of but doing that thing because for some reason it hits the dopamine for you. It is so important. And yeah, as like it really is amazing how much it plays into to our focus and our productivity. I'm going to nerd out about this for a moment, if that's okay. There's actually one of my favorite books is by Greg McKeown. It's called Essentialism, and he has a whole chapter on play. And the whole rest of the book is like, I mean, this guy has done high level business consulting, like really professional, really exceptional human being. And he has a chapter in his book about play. Like, what? I loved it, and I have really leaned into that over the last few years. And as I've experimented with it, I actually have a whiteboard in my office that I I wrote down work, play, work, rest, work, connect, work, play. And it's like Blaze, my husband, walked in and he's like, "What is this?" And I said, it's my lasagna. It's my layers that I alternate throughout the day that I have the luxury of working for myself. I have the luxury of working from home. Much of the work that I do does not have a deadline. Okay? Like other than answering emails at a reasonable time, so much of what I do is on my own time frame. That's hard because I work really well with deadlines and urgency. So when I can like mix that in my day rather than thinking of my day as like I'm working for these 8 hours or these 6 hours or these 3 hours and then I can take a break. Try. Like I've been experimenting with this for the last little bit and I feel like not only am I more productive and effective in the work that I'm doing, I'm also happier. Like I'm just a generally more pleasant person for myself and for those that I live and work with. So, yes, play the games, do the puzzles, like do the things and you can mix it up. It is like find your way, find what works for you.
We talked about a lot about self-care. I have another one because again, I know you very well at this point. I know that you're juggling a lot right now: business, family, education. How do you find balance, and how do you recognize others find this balance in their daily lives?
Yeah, I think in really, really busy seasons of life, you definitely have to let some things go. Um, and sometimes that means lowering the bar, lowering your own expectations of others, of self. um, those two things have helped me a lot. So there were a lot of kind of extra things I was doing and saying yes to, both on the home front, like saying yes to volunteering at the school thing and then on work, like saying yes to like all the possible networking groups I could show up at. Those two things as soon as I enrolled in my MBA program, those were the things that had to go. They were extra, they were non-essential. Nobody was going to die if I cut those out. Do I feel guilty as I see all of the PTA emails come through and I just let them go through? A little bit, and I'm working on that. But just reminding myself of like right now, that is not the priority. There are other ways that I show my kiddos that they are important to me, and showing up to a PTA meeting is not one of them right now. So really talking myself through those proper priorities in the right seasons of life. I think especially when we're dealing with kids and families, we have to be realistic about that. Which brings me to the word you used, Ashlan, is work-life balance. And that is quickly becoming kind of an outdated term, because now we're talking more about like work-life harmony, work-life integration, right? Like acknowledging the fact that we all do have lives, and many of us have, families and other responsibilities outside of work. How do we integrate that? Not necessarily balance it, right? So yeah, I think the prioritization and minimization has really been the key for me.
It was kind of related, but a little bit different. What are some quick tips you would have for people for getting through burnout, and like how could people maybe spot it early? Because I feel like, especially right now, I feel like burnout is just like a constant cycle that people are going through. So what would you say to people about that?
Yeah. Okay. So you had two parts of your question, and I had ideas at the same time for both of them. So tell me the two parts again. So
yeah. So how could maybe someone spot it early?
Yeah.
And how would you have people work through it so that it's not a continuous cycle?
Yeah. How to recover, like when you're in it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're in it, and I share this as like a trained health and wellness professional, and I share this from personal experience, you have to go into hibernation, really. You have to like go into deep rest, like deep recovery, where you say everything that is non-essential gets cut, and all expectations that are non-essential get eliminated. And you go into eating, sleeping, and doing the bare minimum until you feel like you can deal again. Some people that will take a few days. Some people it might take weeks or months. It depends on how long you've been digging that hole. So however deep you've dug, that's how long it's going to take you to dig back out, to climb back out. So you didn't get there in a day, you won't get out of it in a day. So being realistic and, oh my goodness, being so, like, call it what it is, call it burnout, get help. Therapy works. I'm a huge fan of therapy. Coaching works, obviously big fan of coaching. But rallying your support group, letting them know, hey, I'm gonna create some space for I don't know how long. I hope you can support me through that. I'm not available for X, Y, and Z. Thank you for understanding. I try really not to say the words I'm sorry or please forgive me. I say thank you. Thank you for giving me space. Thank you for giving me time, right? So that's a way that we can show ourselves a lot of grace and a lot of self-respect, and honoring the fact that I dug myself really deep and now I'm going to climb out, and it's going to take some time. So those are my recovery tips. Baths for me is like, well, I hit major burnout the summer. Well, we moved to Oregon the summer of 2021. And I had actually just finished and published my book that spring, and then turned around and moved my family out of state, got my kids established with school, and then I launched a new business. And then I hit a huge burnout wall that fall and winter. And then, of course, if you know the Pacific Northwest, the seasonal depression set in hard. I had to be really realistic with myself and had to be really transparent and communicative of, I'm not well right now. Husband, children, friends, family, like I'm not well right now. And these are the things I'm going to do to get myself well. So sharing from experience, it works. Give yourself the grace and the time. To prevent it from happening again. Such an important question. I think, again, just kind of back to like, what's just that little thing you can start noticing? For me, it's notice when you're pushing. Okay. So many of us have been conditioned that when we're in work mode, whether that's studying and we're in school or we're working on a project, or we're just like drilling through client work, whatever it is, start noticing when you're like in your flow and you're like grooving. That's one thing. But then when do you start to like mentally, physically, intellectually, like you kind of start slowing down a little bit, and then you kind of notice like, oh, I'm out of gas. And then what do? We push, right? We just like, I mean, Fred Flintstone, we don't need an engine, we don't need gas anymore. We just are gonna pedal this thing with our bare feet, right? So watch out for that. And something that I work on a lot with the folks in our coaching is, before you can change something, first you need to notice it. Okay. So before you even worry about like, how do I not push through my wall? Just try to notice. Just notice, oh, I'm pushing right now. I'm pushing past my limit right now. Interesting. Like just notice that. And then when you're ready, maybe once you've gotten really good at noticing, maybe you can start saying, okay, when I can tell that I hit my wall, maybe I'll set a timer for 5 minutes. I will wrap up whatever I need to wrap up, and I will go take a break or be done for the day, whatever that looks like for you. But I think that is the thing that is really that sneaky cultural conditioning that has created the burnout culture that we're all living in right now.
That's such tangible feedback too, of like, because all of us know what that's like when we hit that slump or you hit a wall, and the urge to just keep going instead of getting up and taking a break, or using that as a sign of, I'm probably going to be more creative in the morning, so maybe it's time. Or and logically I know that, but I mean, every single day when I'm at this desk, I do that, and I don't think twice about it. I just keep, I guess I'm just not focused today, so
right?
That's such tangible. That's such a good idea, because the more you notice it, the more you can say, okay, maybe I should listen to my body. Back to listening to your body. I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for asking. These are things I need to remind myself of constantly too. It's a practice. And the more, like, find a friend that you can like kind of like check in with each other, like, how's that? Maybe you two can check in of like, how's that going for you? For me, it's my husband and I, like, we're both working on kind of unraveling that conditioning. We both now work from home and work for ourselves, and it is a process. So good luck.
Well, I think, you talk a lot about giving yourself permission. I think that is the beauty of being your own business owner. Like, this is the second year that I'm doing it. I did not plan to be moving during it again, but that last week of June, our office closes. And that is just to build in time to rest, to stop, to slow down. And I remember the first time I did it, people, like, my mom was like freaking out. She was like, aren't your clients going to like freak out? And I was like, no, I tell them for like months, like, by the way, we're going to be closed. Like, we can pre-plan. Like you said, nobody's going to die if we just take this week off. And it's just such a nice thing to have a pause, a reset, and, to be able to keep going. And it's funny because a lot of my clients take the first week of July off because of where 4th of July, lands. And so I'm like, cool, you'll cover for me the week I'm out. I'll cover you the week that you're out. And it's perfect. And it's nice to build in those times to like slow down, rest, reflect, have a reset point. And, you can have that time and it's okay.
It is okay. It's necessary. And it's normal. It's natural. Like, it's cyclical. It's seasonal. This is how the universe functions. It is only since the Industrial Revolution that we think otherwise. So yeah, getting back to that cyclical nature, I think, is one of the best mindset shifts we can start to embrace and recognize where that shows up, where we think that it just has to be constant all the time, 100%. Like, no.
That's
Absolutely.
awesome. Well, thank you so
great.
much.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I know that we could talk about so many other topics, and we will probably have to have you come back. But we have come to the end of our questions, and I just wanted to give you a chance to plug anything. How can people find you? Where should they look for you? All those things.
Sure thing. Yeah. And thank you again for having me. I love having meaningful conversations with really awesome people. So thank you so much. Yeah, so plugs, shameless plug for ACW. Our website is acwcoaching.com. Yeah, we love working with heart-centered, forward-thinking leaders. I think startups are really fun, exciting teams to be working with because if you're building a team, building a business, and there's a lot to do and you're trying to do it as quickly as possible, right? All of us get that. That is what I love doing, is helping people not burn themselves out in the process of pursuing their dreams. We've had a couple of startups that we've been privileged to serve and support with our employee wellness coaching program, and it is just so satisfying to see those businesses are still thriving, and they did not burn themselves into the ground. So yeah, check out our website. We're on LinkedIn. Definitely, open to connecting with other like-minded entrepreneurs on my personal LinkedIn, Danielle Dinkelman. Those are great places to hang out.
Awesome.
That's great.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in to another episode of Take the Lead, and we will see you next time. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to the Take the Leap podcast. We hope you found useful takeaways you can apply to your entrepreneurial journey. Subscribe so you don't miss future episodes, and keep in touch and follow us on Instagram. If you have business questions, shoot us a direct message or leave us a comment. We'll try to cover it in an upcoming episode. And visit our website, taketheleap-today.com, for more resources like our online course that accompanies this podcast.